All right. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this. Again, if you guys can hear me out there, feel free to speak up, ask questions at any time. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you a review of where we stand right now on the OScrap shop management tool and how it can actually interestingly replace spreadsheets inside of your shop. Now, I will warn all of you that the software itself is not fully polished yet. So if we do come across any errors today, as you're going to see, we do know about those errors. And I just wanted to show you the neat things and the vision of what we have. If you guys at any time have more questions about the software, feel free to use the info email address down below. Actually, I think it's the OScrap email address. Send us an email and we can get a customized one-on-one demo and review what your needs are. There we go. I can see my view count has populated. And let's go ahead and share my screen. So you guys should now be able to see my screen. I've already logged into OScrap, as you guys can see. Now, I have completely emptied our system to get you guys set up so that we could start from scratch, kind of build out a normal workflow as I see it and how it's going to be implemented in your shop. So as most softwares, you would have to do some setup and preparatory commands, obviously adding our users in here, as well as going over to something like work centers and adding our different work centers. Now, what's going to happen with us here is we are actually going to set a cost per hour at a machine or a work center, right? So as you can see on my saw, maybe the saw runs about $40 an hour is what I charge my customers. And now I'm going to add in a VF2. Now the VF2 is running about $90 an hour when I quote. And then let's step it up to a much more fancier machine. So we should have a UMC 1000. Again, maybe we're closer to that 120 mark. And from there, let's go ahead and add a few more machines. Looks like we double added it. Not a big deal. We could actually delete that or we could edit it. And I am actually going to do something a little different here because we've re-established this workflow. And what that is going to be is I'm going to add kind of like a outside services, right? So, and the cost on that is going to be $0, and you guys will see why. But this allows us to plan for something that needs to be sent off for anodizing, heat treat, or anything of that nature. So we're going to go ahead and submit that one as well. Again, as you guys are going to see, we have all of our work centers established here. So the next thing is as most of you get, your customer emails you a file. They say, can you quote this? Maybe you're looking at jobs on MFG or wherever your source of actual work comes from. And that's where we have built out now the quoting area. As you can see, we also have a customers area where we can fill out customer information as well. As you can see, we could go through here, company name. I'm going to go ahead and go with McMaster Car. Who doesn't know who they are? And as you can see, you can add your contacts, your emails. Maybe it'll be info at. And then from there, we, of course, can add all of our additional information. So we're going to finish that up with a gmail.com, of course. And test person. I'm really good at making things up on the fly. But as again, you guys can see, you can add your customers in. We are going to get this where we can import and connect directly to the ability to use things like QuickBooks. If you're a QuickBooks kind of shop, pull these customers in and push them out. So let's get to the meat and potatoes of this. We're going to estimate some parts for this. So now in our world, we're looking at this as an estimate is based on an individual part, right? So if you get a list of parts, let's say you get 6 parts on a quote or an RFQ, is we're going through and we're filling out all that information here, right? So maybe they want, let's start simple, 100 or 10 parts. From that, we could say, in this case, we're going to need some 61R 1 inch, and then we're going to go ahead and need 3 bars to complete that job, and that's $135 per bar. As you can see, we're already starting to roll up the costing, and we are quoting and routing this through our shop at the estimate level, right? So now we could say, we're going to put this on our saw. It's going to take 10 minutes to set up, and then it's going to take 2 minutes per cut. So as you can see right off the start, it's telling you at the $40 an hour shop rate for the saw, it's going to take 30 minutes, which equates to $20 in labor. Or not labor, but $20 at your shop quoting level. So again, we can add another one in here. We're going to go ahead and then move that over. Let's just go straight to the UMC, because why not? We have the 5-axis. Now, I'm expecting 30 minutes of setup, followed by maybe somewhere like a 25-minute cycle time. And then, of course, to end everything up, we're going to put it on the VF2 and face off the backside or do anything on the backside of this part that we know of. But what you're seeing here is by routing it through my shop as if I was going to run this actual part, is we've already now generated anything for a schedule later, right? So if we scroll down now, this is where we have our bill of materials, which is our material, of course, any outside services, which we'll plug that here in a minute, but what it's going to actually cost to do the entire job, and then also things like your price per part. So depending on how you quote this to your customer, this job in particular is going to cost, $1,100. Now, again, this is all built off the time chart and our work center pricing that we established already. So when we pivot now, and this is why you guys saw me do that outside services, right? So if I go ahead and say outside service wise, and if you guys didn't know, everything is currently set in minutes, but if there's 40 hours in a week by 60, that is 2,400 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and say, we're going to have this off somewhere for 2,400 minutes. And again, because the price was 0, there's no cost added here. And so you can see when we look at the schedule side of that here in a minute, we'll be able to utilize that information to make sure that we pushed everything up. So operation 4 is missing a work center. So let's go ahead and go back. I've accidentally duplicated something here. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. And then let's go back down and hit save estimate. And now we've estimated a part. I'm going to do this again a little quicker this time. Same customer. Let's say we're going to go to part number 1003. They want 100 of them. Again, we don't need 6061. I actually need to refresh my screen. So this is one of the small bugs that we've seen in the software already. The automatic refreshing, as you guys are going to see, is that is already built and established. I am just on a couple version older that's a little more stable at the moment. So again, we have 100 pieces. We're going to go in. Maybe this is 1018, hot rolled or cold rolled. And I think you guys are starting to see how this all plays out, right? So once we get it routed through the shop, again, saw, maybe 10-minute setup, a little harder material, a little longer to cut, and then we're going to put that right on the VF2. Again, 20-minute setup, followed by maybe let's say this is going to be a longer job. Let's say this is going to be like a 45-minute cycle time. Again, when you get down to the bottom here, you can see all the pricing rolls up and spits out that costing to your customer. The key element here is we wanted to build this with the intent that it's going to take sub 60 seconds, sub 45 seconds to quickly estimate out your parts. Now that we have our parts estimated, as you can see, we can put those parts on a quote. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition over the quote side of things. And now, again, we're going to say, who do we want this to go to? We're going to send this to McMaster Car. It is going to be due now. Let's say in the typical world of machining, we might get lucky with about a 3-week window. And from that, we could go ahead and now add in our different parts. So as you're going to see here, is I start to type my part number, and we've now populated that first part, right? So again, same thing here. We're going to go ahead and go to 1003 now. We've added those to our quote. At any time, you do have the ability to override these values as well, allowing you to change your pricing on the fly. Again, we're working on a few things of like setting something based on a material per part for costing on your actual raw material. And we'll see that here probably in a version 2 here a little later. So as you guys can see, we went ahead and set everything up here. I'm going to go ahead and save my quote. And then what you're going to see upon another refresh is I now have my quote ready to go to my customer, right? So if we go ahead and go into that quote, we can actually create a PDF file if you wanted to export this to a PDF. Now, again, very generic template, as you guys can see. The idea is, again, for anybody using like QuickBooks or another bookkeeping software, we could push this over to that software and generate this as well. So we're going to go ahead and pivot back now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this as sent, right? We sent it to the customer. The customer looked it over. They came back and they said, you know what? We like it. I'm going to hit accept. Now, once this has been accepted, you're going to notice that your stages are updated so that you can track them in the quotes area, right? But now we're ready to push this out to the shop floor and generate our work order. As you're seeing now, work orders have been created. I'm going to go ahead and jump for production over to work orders. And as you can see, each one of those individual line items has now been generated into a work order. And what that work order is going to do is it's actually going to schedule it out on my schedule. And as you can see here, again, another refresh button fixed that. We're going to get this all set up a little bit more, but you can now see when you're trying to manage your shop floor, what needs to be worked on, when does it need to be worked on, and how long do you have until it's due. A few other things that we're building in is the hierarchy of you can't start this until that is done. Again, the ability for you and your actual guys on the floor to start production, stop production, go ahead and go home for the day, claim your quantity of parts that are done, giving you a live and real-time update inside the software. So, guys, what do you think so far? Let me know. Does this look like something that could benefit you, especially if you're moving from an Excel spreadsheet into something that's going to manage your shop floor a lot nicer? Or is this something at the end of the day that, could even replace older ERP softwares? Now, our goal with this is not to replace ERP softwares overall. We don't plan to be an ERP system. We just want to manage your shop floor, right? We don't want to deal with payroll. We just want to make sure that you have the money to make payroll happen. So if you guys like this and you do want more information, feel free to use the email down below and send me an email at any time so that we could actually get you a custom demo and get you on track to be able to see this before our official release date. Thanks. Have a great rest of your day.